Orphie is back, and by now she has found herself quite a lot of teams. But is Orphie still worth it for you, and might she actually not bring as much value to your account as you think she does? Well, let's find out today, and let's talk about her kit and how she plays, her best weapons, distress and distress sets, her combos, her main substats, her teams and her Mindscapes, and lastly, let's also talk about her pros and cons. Welcome, I am Rivyn Elowen, but you may call me Rivy, and this is your complete updated guide to Orphie and MAGUS. Orphie is an aftershock fire attacker who specializes in dual attacker compositions, is similar to Seed and Zzzero, and also provides a lot of damage while inactive through her, well, aftershocks. She further provides consistent access to quick assists and also some notable buffs to not only herself, but also the team. Orphie has a 5-part basic attack string, and we will never use them. She then also features a Fireblade attack that can be manually triggered after her basic 5, and also regular EX special. And although we won't really use this either, there is an argument to be made for it to be used when short of just a little bit of energy. Her dodge, counter, dash attack, quick assist, regular special, and also assist follow-up either do not matter and will also never be used, or they do what they are supposed to do, and hence we will skip them. Her chain attack also does what a chain attack is supposed to do, but using it will not only generate 266 decibels, but also 20 bottled heat, and her ultimate is effectively just Burniss's ultimate. We jump into the air, trigger quick assist, and if we use said quick assist, she will fire for longer and inflict more damage, daze and anomaly. Unfortunately for us, it inflicts basically no daze or anomaly whatsoever, so the primary use here really is mainly the quick assist as well as the 20 bottled heat and some damage it provides. As we have now already spoken quite a bit about it, bottled heat is her unique resource and as per usual is displayed right below her HP bar. Bottled heat caps out at 125 points and we require 100 of it to cast her EX special Heat Charge, which I will simply refer to as her EX laser. Holding down her EX special button with 100 bottled heat or more will consume 100 to then cast said EX laser. This will trigger a quick assist to the next unit in the lineup, and if Orphie is attacked during the charge up or when firing, the incoming attack will be parried and after the laser ends, she will then automatically cast her EX special Fury Eruption. Fury Eruption deals some additional damage, and that's about it. While Orphie is off-field, she will automatically become inactive and cast her special attack Corrosive Flash every 5 seconds during ally attacks. However, in reality, because this does in fact require allies' attacks, it more realistically triggers every 5.2 to 5.4 seconds instead rather than exactly 5. Which is also only partially true because you might switch into her, which prevents it from triggering in the first place. Realistically, you can and should expect about 20 per fight or about 1 every 9 seconds. This inactive special is an aftershock attack which will hit 4 times and restore 20 bottled heat as well. As for the topic of Severed Innocence, because you can only acquire 1 stack per skill and the type, here the special, takes priority over the subtype, that would be the aftershock, she will obtain 1 stack from this and can obtain a second one from her other aftershock attacks. More on this later. If Orphie is off-field and her current energy is 60 or higher however, she will consume 30 energy to cast her EX special Crimson Vortex instead of her regular inactive special. This EX special will also restore 20 bottled heat, and except for dealing more damage, there is not much of a difference to her regular aftershock special. If you swap into Orphie during either of her 2 inactive aftershocks, again that being her special or her EX special with enough energy, she will finish said aftershock first, and that might delay your health EX special laser. Lastly, as for her 4th and last EX special, it requires 30 energy, and when pressed while she is on field, it will deal some damage. I also want to shortly focus on the sentence here within the skill description. After using the skill, immediately follow up with a powerful Fireblade from the basic attack. Even though it does say immediately, this can be a bit misleading as it will not activate automatically and does in fact require a manual basic attack input to actually cast the Fireblade afterwards. However, most of the time the ideal play here is to actually just not do the fire basic blade and instead simply swap cancel the initial EX cast. Which brings us back to the topic of Severed Innocence. While it is at least in theory possible to maintain 3 stacks on it, we will either have to weave in a manual basic attack every 30 seconds, or make sure to not swap cancel her regular EX special too early. However, we are also only missing out on 10% crit damage by doing so, which is not the end of the world. TLDR being, I think 2 stacks are more realistic, but 3 are at least in theory possible. Anyway, let's continue with her kit. First up, Orphie gains a 25% crit rate as well as 85% aftershock damage. This is important to keep in mind because her core also specifies that essentially all of her used skills, aside from her assist follow-up, are considered aftershocks. This includes all of her EX specials, her basic Fire Blade, her chain, and her ultimate. Furthermore, it explains what Bottled Heat is, we already covered that, and lastly, casting her Health EX special Heat Charge, again that is the laser, will then also provide a buff to the team called Zeroed In. Zeroed In provides a flat 280 combat attack, increasing by 20 for every 0.1 initial energy regeneration she has above 1.6 and caps out at a maximum of 700. Zeroed In lasts for 12 seconds by default, and if the agent triggers an aftershock, they will extend their own Zeroed In duration by 4 seconds for a maximum of 20 seconds. This effectively simply means for frequent aftershock attackers, the maximum duration is 32 seconds, while the likes of, for example, Seed and Soldier 11 are stuck at 12 seconds. It is also important to note that I just lied and that the laser constantly refreshes the buff while it is still being cast, so the actual buff duration is closer to 15 seconds rather than 12 seconds. Lastly, as for her additional ability, we require either a stun or support character, and if that condition is fulfilled, all aftershock damage dealt while buffed by Zeroed In will also ignore 25% defense. And with that, to end the kit overview, a large portion of her damage comes from her EX specials, which should be to nobody's surprise. Because of that, her skill priority is core and EX special, into chain and assist, followed by her basics and lastly dodge. We can leave her dodge at level 1, and if you're short on resources, that also applies to her basics. Because Daze is an important factor in many Orphie teams, leveling her assist at least a little bit is always a good choice, even if you prefer to parry on other characters. Let's talk a bit more about energy regeneration on Orphie. First up, Orphie's buff scales of initial energy regeneration, and that means secondary effects such as Housekeeper's off-field energy regeneration do not work for her core. Next, Orphie's Zeroed In buff will also only last for the previously 12 to 15 seconds, at least on Seed or Soldier 11 that is, and due to the inherent 5-second cooldown of her inactive aftershocks, she cannot ever maintain 100% uptime on it unless you actively use her regular on-field EX special. Which at least in the case of Seed you want to anyway, but that is a different topic. This also has a major implication. If you are running her signature, running attack percent in slot 6 over energy regeneration can actually give you better results, even if it hurts a little bit her maximum combat attack she provides. Due to how her energy breakpoints and inactive EX aftershock cooldown timings work, running attack percent in slot 6 instead of energy regeneration can be worth it if you are either not fully utilizing said buff anyway, or simply not frequently swapping to her to spend energy manually. This is especially true when played with Seed, as Orphie's aftershocks do absolutely nothing for Seed, and any ER on her is completely wasted if you do not use it to generate Steel Charge for Seed. Generally speaking, energy in slot 6 is the better choice for Orphie in terms of the team's damage potential, but attack percent is much easier and more brain dead to play and might give you competitive results simply due to that. There's also one last thing I urgently want to talk about, and albeit this has actually nothing to do with energy on her, I think it is just very important to mention. Special thanks to my buddy Kete for pointing this out. As Orphie simply shares a portion of the team's damage, when you start investing into your other DPS, so for example Soldier 0 Ambi, other team options such as Astra or even Sunna will start to heavily outclass Orphie as a team member. And just to make it clear, when I say investing, I mean you bought Mindscapes. That is unfortunately just the reality of sub DPSs, and if you have Mindscapes on Zambi or Seed, Orphie might not necessarily be a worthy pull for you, albeit she is still not a bad unit. But I do think it is very important to mention, so keep that in mind. The more your Soldier Zero MB, for example, is invested, the worse Orphie becomes. Her signature is her best in slot choice, but because Orphie is usually teamed up with another attacker, such as Soldier 11, Manato, Seed, Soldier 0 MB, or even Ben for that matter, even though I guess Ben is not an attacker, but anyway, she will usually contribute somewhere around 30 to 50% of the team's total damage, depending on the team that is, of course. Other great premium options include Heartstring Nocturne, Severed Innocence, or Myriad Eclipse. If you're free to play, Steel Cushion is your best crit rate stat stick and Mercato Desire her best A-rank option. Choose whatever you have available and is the highest on the list. Lastly, I do want to mention specifically how bad Drill Rig is on her, and I highly discourage you from picking it. It is quite literally her worst weapon option. A 4-piece Shadow Harmony is her best generic option and what I would recommend. In very specific team comps with Astra holding a 4-piece Moonlight Lullaby, or if your Orphie is not super well built, a 4-piece Astral Voice can do as well, however. As for the 2-piece, either a 2-piece Swing Jazz or Moonlight Lullaby are required as we want to hit her 80% energy regeneration breakpoint. With her signature crit damage in slot 4, fire damage or attack percent in slot 5, and either of energy regeneration or attack percent in slot 6 are her best choices, with either being better depending on your personal skill level and the team. Please refer back to the energy on Orphie section. With any crit rate stat stick weapon that is not her signature, such as Heartstring Nocturne, Myriad Eclipse or Mercato Desire, you are looking at crit damage in slot 4, with fire damage or attack percent in slot 5, and energy regeneration in slot 6. We require energy regeneration in slot 6 here to hit her 80% energy regeneration breakpoint. Yo, post-editing Riff here. Did you know that insert current percent of people that are not subscribed are not actually subscribed? Please subscribe if you enjoy this content and want to see more of it. Thank you. If you run a non-crit rate weapon such as Severed Innocence or Gilded Blossom, or a weapon that provides a low amount of crit rate such as Sentient Herb Case, crit rate in slot 4, fire damage or attack percent in slot 5, and energy regeneration in slot 6 are your best choices, with a R in slot 6 yet again being preferable as for the same reason as before. As for substats, focus on crit values and attack percent first and foremost, then flat pen, and lastly flat attack. Because flat pen is subtracted from the remaining defense after both defense threat and pen ratio have been applied, and Orphie has a lot of defense threat in her kit, signature, as well as getting even more from possibly Trigger or Nicole, flat pen is actually a pretty good substat on her. Orphie gains 25% crit rate from her core, 20% from her signature if you have it, and 12% from Shadow Harmony. So if you run that layout, the maximum amount of crit rate you should aim for, as displayed in the stat screen, is 43%. Orphie's Mindscape 1 grants her 15% fire red threat for her inactive special and EX specials and gives an additional 20% damage bonus to the team. This Mindscape is better for Soldier 0 MB teams as opposed to C-Teams due to the prolonged uptime on her buff and hence the additional damage bonus. Her M2 gives her 20% combat attack and allows for a guaranteed third ultimate, possibly allowing for 4, and even though the maximum decibels you can get from this are 2925, realistically you can probably expect around 2500 to 2700 per deadliest hold run. The actual value you gain from this will heavily depend on you, the team, and also the matchup, so don't take the number shown here for granted. Her M3 and M5 exist, and her M4 is especially good for C teams. And also does nearly nothing for Sambi teams. It does give her some more personal damage as well, however, which is nice. As for her M6, it grants her a good increase in personal damage and, more importantly, allows her to use her inactive EX special after basic attack Fireblade, which simply means you can now play her as an on-field main DPS. This Mindscape completely changes how she can be played, but it does grant a fair damage increase to her inactive playstyle as well. Orphie is still fantastic in Aftershock teams and hence also a core of the Obel squad team. She pairs extremely well with a Soldier 0 MB and Trigger, but if you don't have Trigger, Pulchra, Astra or Nicole are an option as well. Orphie also works great with a Seed and either of Dial-In, Trigger or Astra in the last slot. If you can make sufficient use of her EX specials, energy regeneration in slot 6 is much better in this team as attack is, at least in terms of the team's damage ceiling that is. Both Soldier 11 and Manato appreciate Orphie as well, and as both really like stun windows, a stunner of your choice such as Dial-In Lighter or Jofufu will do well in the last slot. Orphie's is Ben's best teammate, and any top 10 Ben team is also with Orphie. If you want to learn more about Ben, his guide is actually coming soon, and you will find a link to his guide in the description after it has been released. Lastly, it would not be my video if there wasn't any Critney's propaganda, of course. Pros and cons. While Orphie has a pretty low skill floor on a basic level, her skill ceiling is somewhere in the higher mid-range if you want to optimize her gameplay, which is especially true when paired with Seed or Ben. She is relatively easy to build as she uses established sets such as Astral Voice or Shadow Harmony, and because 75% of her total damage is from her special and EX special, she does not require a high investment either and is pretty cheap in terms of her skills. While her signature allows for more flexibility and makes her also easier to build, it is not needed. She has a fair share of team options by now as well, but on the other hand, she is not fantastic as a main DPS, well, unless you M6 her, that is of course. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment on whether or not you are getting Orphie or not, and of course, join the Discord. A special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description, or simply click the join button right below this video. It does come with perks after all. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace.